Alright, what's up guys? So we're back on the charts for another trade recap. You still have to bear with me. My office should be done by next week. It's going to look super cool once it's all been moved in properly and I have my new office set up. So just bear with me for now. Anyway, we're looking at this trade that we took in the Discord. Let me just show you. It was called out last week in the Discord. So okay, on GBPAUD, so what we saw was we were still pushing down to this 4-hour demand zone that we see here. Let me mark this out. Okay, and price had not actually mitigated it, at least not on my broker. So if I don't see it on the charts as a mitigation, then I'm just going to trade what I see. So in my opinion, we were still bearish, okay? So now price came up, purged these prior highs here as we see, and then continued to give a change of character to the downside on the lower time frame as we see on the 1 hour. Subsequently on the 4 hour we also got a change of character to the downside as this low held below this prior low here. So after we see that, we think okay, we're ready to take the trade now and it's valid. So I looked for a new supply zone that was made after we purged the prior highs, and we're left with this perfect 5-minute supply zone. Why is it perfect? Because it has a top heavy sell side wick, so indicating a lot of selling power, and we have this fair value gap here on a higher time frame which needs to get filled. So we also had a 15-minute supply zone and a 1 hour supply zone, which are both technically valid and you could have traded that, but this is where intuition comes in, and you have to notice on the lower time frame that although yes, the higher time frame is holding valid supply zones and I would usually choose a larger one, we still had a fair value gap all the way up until our 5-minute supply zone. So price was going to fill this in anyway, so we managed to get the smallest zone. Something else which is great is when we look into prior market data, once we purged these highs here, we actually mitigated this 5-minute supply zone. And you may think, oh, that's not very significant, but price respects supply and demand on every single time frame. So this is significant, and we sold off completely after purging and then mitigation of that supply zone. So now that I'm looking at this new supply zone, I want to find my targets. So firstly, my entry is at the bottom of the candle and my stop loss is at the top of the wick because we already purged prior liquidity. So if price wants to purge the liquidity of this supply candle, it's most likely going to turn bullish, okay? It doesn't need any more liquidity. Another confluence was obviously this was the high of day, and price likes to respect highs of days, especially if we're bearish on the higher time frame, then we're going to be disrespecting lows of days and respecting highs of days, of course. So we got filled. Now we're looking for our take profits. So on the 4 hour, on the 4 hour all the way over here, we can see, if you look carefully, we had this 4-hour demand zone. I'll replay it over to here so we can see. So we pushed up, we had this 4-hour demand zone, right? Because it's the bearish candle before the bullish push. So we know that price wants to fill this in, and luckily for us, this was a huge fair value gap which needed filling on all time frames. So this was my first take profit, okay? Because it's a high confluence area that price could reject off of there, especially since we didn't get a breaker structure of this prior low. So once price came down to here, let's play it a bit, then I took partials. So hit the 4-hour demand zone and we started to reject a bit, and we continued to the downside after that. Now the next thing I was looking at was this 30-minute demand zone. Why? Because it's resting above the highs of day, the lows of days, and it's a possible rejection area because we have a fair value gap which needs filling, and we have this huge buy side wick underneath this demand zone. And I was just watching for this. So once price comes down here, it rejected off it a few times, but we were so close to coming underneath to this breaker structure and these lows of days that my full take profit was at this breaker structure here. Unfortunately, it didn't get hit, as we know. And the reason being, I think, is because firstly, I failed to notice that this high of day respected the prior high of day, and we also closed bullish on the 4 hour. As you can see here, we got the breaker structure and the higher high, and we didn't get the breaker structure to the downside. Yet I was determined that price was going to go to this 4 hour demand zone. So I had marked that out, and I thought, should I take partials? No, I'll leave it. But then price told me that I should have taken partials there, and my analysis was correct, but my psychology clearly wasn't, because I didn't want to take partials. So we ended off this trade, just give me a second, with 1,650, which is still good. That's a little over 3 risk to reward, but it's not really good when you think about that I was up 9 risk to reward in profit, and I was in deep profit. I was about 2,400, 2,500 in profit here, and because of my discipline, it's good for me to leave it to hold until take profit, but unfortunately in this scenario, it didn't play out the way I wanted it to. And now price is pushed to the upside. But that was the analysis. So quickly to run over, we're bearish on the higher time frame. We purged prior highs. We tapped into a supply zone. We gave a new supply zone. Change of character on the lower time frame. I'll just mark that out so you guys can see. This is also a breaker structure as well as a change of character. Change of character on the lower time frame. And then we had that perfect supply zone that we could have sold off from. And my targets were just higher time frame demand zones, okay? I forgot to mention my break-even point was at the breaker structure. So we made this new structure point here. We failed to break this low. Okay, this was the prior low before the push up into our entry. We made this low, so I still wasn't at break-even yet, but once we came down, broke below this low here, that was our breaker structure because we made a new structure point. And then this was where I put my stops to break even. Why can't I type properly? There we go. So that was the trade. I hope it was clear enough for you guys, and you get a feel for the analysis and why I took this trade. It was a really good trade, and again, it was called out in the Discord. The Discord will be in the description. I also call out free trades every week. If you want to take those, feel free. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next trade recap.